Hello everyone and welcome to another video. Today we're going to go through some endgame theory, and I've got two positions for you. They're almost identical, except the bishop in this scenario is on g2 and the bishop in scenario number 2 is on f3. But one of these positions is winning for white and one of them is a complete draw. In both positions it's black to move, but I just thought it was quite interesting how your bishop on one different square can make all the difference in an endgame. Now it's probably not really important to memorise this, however, just keep it in the back of your mind if you ever get into these sort of endgame positions. This is also worth knowing. So in position 1, the bishop is on g2, it's black to move and the pawn is attacked by the rook, so king a7 is basically the move you should play. White's best move now is to play king to c7. The rook and the king are attacking b6. There's no way to save this pawn, so black's best try is to try and grab the a4 pawn to gain some counterplay. For instance, after king to a6, white will play rook takes b6. There's king to a5, and now it's a question of whether white can save this a4 pawn. In this position, they can, because there's an intermezzo move here with rook to b2, hitting the bishop on g2. The bishop has a few squares to go to. One attempt is bishop d5. This, though, loses to rook to b5 with check, and we'll pick up the bishop afterwards. So any other square also loses. Let's say bishop to f3 in this position. White will play rook to a2, and now the pawn is defended. It's just a question of getting the king back all the way to defend the pawn and maybe using the rook to push the king around. Black could try bishop d1, but it doesn't work due to king to d6. Yes, you can win the pawn back with bishop takes a4, but then comes king to c5, and now the king for black has to move to a6, the only square, and then rook takes bishop just wins the game. So then, on to position number 2. Why does the bishop on f3 make a massive difference? Well, we've got the same position, so king to a7 protects our pawn on b6. King to c7 attacks it again. White will pick up the b6 pawn. So we have to counterattack. King to a6, rook takes b6 with check, king to a5. And now, here's the difference. Rook to b3 hits the bishop on f3, but now we have this nice move, bishop to d1, hitting the rook, which inadvertently also hits the pawn at the same time. And once the rook moves, let's say to b1, there's rook to a4, and the king just isn't close enough to get to c5, so there's not that trick where you can play rook to a1. Also, if white plays rook to a3 to defend the pawn, you can of course just take. Again, there's no tricks, the king will just run to b4, and it should be a drawn endgame theoretically. So just to clarify, this position is a drawn position and this position is a lost position for black. So why does this make a difference? Well, let's say you get into a position like this on the board. You're playing with black and it's white to move in this position. So how will you draw the game? Well, you've sort of got a little fortress here because the pawn and the bishop work quite well to stop the king getting in, but the white king is coming in. The best move is king to e5. As black will play king to c7 to stop the king coming in, but now white can use their rook h7 check, the king is forced backwards, and king to d6, the king is actually coming into the position. But now this is where the bishop makes all the difference. We can play bishop to f3. The bishop controls these squares and there's no way for the king to get in any further because now our king can just go back and forth even if white starts checking us all over the place. So white has to do something with their pawns. Let's say a4 in this position. There are a few ways to go wrong. If we play bishop to e4, this actually sadly loses to rook to h4 because after bishop to f3, the rook can push the bishop around. Rook to f4, bishop to g2 and b4. All of a sudden we're in the drawing position because after pawn takes b4, Rook takes b4. Does this position look familiar to you? We're in the lost position for black because now comes king a7, king c7, king a6, rook takes pawn, king a5, rook to b2 hitting the bishop, bishop to f3, rook to a2, and this is the lost scenario that we've got. So that makes all the difference. The best move in this position is actually bishop to g2, because now if white goes in to try and play b4 with rook to h4, the black king can step forward, king to b7, and if white pushes to b4 now, there's a takes b4, rook takes b4, and we're actually a tempo ahead with king to a6, king to c7, king to a5, rook takes pawn, and king takes pawn, which is a drawn endgame. Now after king to b7, of course, white can actually start playing around with the moves here, but I think as long as black realises that their bishop needs to be on f3 at a certain point, it should be able to be a draw. I think rook f4 is actually quite a tricky move because it stops us playing bishop to f3 at a certain point. But if we just wait around long enough, bishop to h1 and b4, then after a takes b4, rook takes b4, king to a6, king to c7, now we can actually play bishop to f3. The point is after rook takes b6, there's king to a5, and we've got the same scenario once again. If rook to b3 attacking the bishop, we of course play our bishop back to d1. We get the same results because the king is just not close enough. So I hope going through these positions was rather helpful. Of course, it's probably wise to get these positions up on your own board and start analysing. Obviously I can't cover every single line. So you get that the bishop on g2 is a lost position, and the bishop on f3 is a drawn position. Hopefully this improves your endgame technique and your elo. If you enjoyed the video, please drop a like, comment or subscribe, as it helps the channel out, helps with the YouTube algorithm and promotes the videos a lot more. Anyway, thank you for watching. I'll see you in another one very soon.